What was that noise? It was a book talk.
With that startling and very quick introduction, welcome to this month's episode of the 800s. I am your co host, Alex, and you heard my startled co host, Adam, just before. And as always, a shout out to our man behind the screen who makes it all happen and got us here more on time than we usually are, Alex.
On
With that,
time adjacent.
all right, with that, let's get into our initial plugs.
Yeah, we are the DM's Table. Hit up dmstable.com for all the information you could ever want about who we are and what we do. That's the initial plugs.
Short, sweet, just like the intro.
Yeah,
All right,
tell
so
us about the book.
this month on the 800s, we'll be discussing our October horror and thriller selection. Let's put on that. Pen Pal by J.T. Geissinger. After departing a funeral whose tombstone bore her own last name, Kayla returns to her home. She bought it with her husband to be a fixer-upper, but every project finished was replaced by two more, and now her husband is no longer there to help. Attempting to avoid her grief, Kayla sets out to fix the house before it too can crumble around her. She reaches out to a number of handyman, and one finally sticks. Probably more than she thought. And to add to all this craziness in her life, she receives a letter from a prison, and with it, she reluctantly finds herself a pen pal.
It's funny because that's the name of the book.
I do like to put those in my notes where I can.
Yeah.
This one is
Uh,
relatively easy. Nouns, easy.
Anyway, welcome to the 800s. We are a discussion show. What that essentially means is we are going to talk about the book. We look for topics or questions from chat, or if there are no current topics or questions, Alex or myself will pose a topic or question. Once a topic is posed, we'll discuss our own viewpoints back and forth to give you guys, our chat, the opportunity to type your own response in chat, and then we'll peruse the comments and grab a few and mention them. So if you at any time if you have a topic of value to add to the conversation, feel free to throw it into chat and we'll grab it when there is a lull. That's pretty much how it works.
Yep. And as usual, quick little disclaimer, this is a show about adult themes and topics, especially this episode. So bring kids around at your own discretion. Highly recommend this be one that they skip, though, unless you've had to talk. Um, this is hella adult, major warnings and, just heads up. Also, we're trying to create a fun and supportive community over at DM's Table where people can feel free to nerd out, geek out, and otherwise out themselves as in love with all kinds of things without any fear of judgment or reprisal. So, in sum, be nice or. Oh, I just wrote fuck off.
um yeah, with that let's get right into the conversation. Alex, chat, what were your initial thoughts of Pen Pal?
Um, I went into this having no idea of what this was other than vaguely romance, and I know what that usually means. I don't think I was prepared for this just go funeral straight to fucking. And there's not a shit ton in between. I'm sorry, there's gonna be a lot of swearing this time. Like, I don't know. This did it. I never really had felt any like when they're. Let me start over. Anywho, I when I read horror and thriller, I expect there to be kind of like either right in your face right up front or a slow build up into something or like the calm that kind of gets you settled in so they can jump scare you later. But there's always in those some kind of tension that I felt was kind of missing from the beginning of this. I tried to settle into it, but there were clearly attempts to make spooky things happen early on. Like the lights are going off and the hippie electrician can't figure out what the hell it is, and well, maybe he's just high and didn't actually do his job. Like every attempt there was at building tension seemed to get like undercut, and I understand part of that is like the mindset of like, oh, I shouldn't jump to the creepy thing. But there wasn't anything else to really build up that kind of tension for horror or thrill, at least. um, so I thought this beginning, was, starts off pretty bleak and then settles into something that felt like just kind of a vehicle for the horny parts. That was my initial impression. How about you, Adam?
When I think about how this book catches its audience, what comes to mind is that first letter that just appears on the table, and our main character is like, "Where the fuck did this letter come from? I didn't put it there. Did my housekeeper put it there?" Like, it's a very, in my opinion, it's a very good way to set the foundation of spooky shit's going on. And the content of the letter too is just like, hey, something ain't quite right here because this person seems to know you. Like, this is not like a this is the first time I'm ever talking to you kind of letter, so I personally think that was a really good way to be like, here's a bunch of questions, we're going to answer them as we go.
Yeah, that is true. Uh, but that felt, I guess, more mystery than like horror thrill, I guess is what I was trying to say. But you are right. It is a good way to draw you in for sure.
Yeah.
Of like, but again, just felt a little more mystery than horror thriller. And maybe that's just me setting my expectations for this like books for like this theme. And I can't put that on the author.
um all right.
Did you have a question in
Plot
mind
plot
or
heavy plot heavy question, not
oh,
not very literary
go ahead?
heavy, but just kind of plotty. When did you figure it out? When did you figure out that um
Which
what's her
part?
name was a ghost?
Um, I had a feeling fairly early on that this was going to be like I'm trying to remember exactly where I called it, but I was just like this is gonna be The Sixth Sense, like except way hornier. Like I remember initially thinking it about Aiden more than her, like because I was like I called Aiden being the one who wrote the letter in like the first time that she went to his house. I was like, oh, she felt compelled to go to this stranger's house when there was supposedly a stranger at her house. Well, even though he's not a stranger, he's an acquaintance, whatever. But like, I was just like, okay, so there's something extra compelling her. This guy, I was like, okay, for sure, this guy wrote the letter. I have a feeling that he might also be a ghost or something intangible that's causing it. The one thing I was having trouble figuring out fully was the connection between the like, the handyman chain. So the hippie to like Eddie uh to Aiden to the guy who did the security, but the guy who did the security was maybe real. I don't know. That was kind of left a little ambiguous, but um,
That was an event from the past.
yeah. um, but I was just like, okay, so it can't just be Aiden, but it works if it's all of them are ghosts. And I'm like, okay, so then where does the ghost line stop? And I had the thought then technically about it being Kayla as well, but I dismissed it because I was like, oh, she's interacting with the maid. And then the maid turns out to have a, you know,
Be a fucking
sis.
medium.
Well, her sister is a medium, and they say it runs in the family. I'm like, oh, okay, she's a ghost too. So that was my confirmed. I know she's a ghost, but like, but yeah, my initial thought was through Aiden because like I kind of figured he was.
Yeah. I really like what V.S. Drake said. He said he thought she had schizophrenia. I didn't think of that, but that does kind of fit where it's like weird connections with people that and she only has like minimal connections with these people.
Hmm.
They didn't seem to have a life of their own without her, but
Yeah, I did kind of think initially that some of the stuff going on in her house was the like whole trauma induced psychosis thing, but then like they kind of specifically address it when the maid implies that she might be, even though the implication is actually that she might be a ghost, which is kind of ironic considering
yeah.
where all of us wound up. But uh
for for me, um early on in the book I flirted with the idea because the pen pal was like barely in the book. I was like, there's got to be
mhm,
he's got to be a character in the book because
mhm,
the pen pal part is barely there. You can't have a book called Pen Pal and not have the pen pal in the fucking book, right? So
preach.
so I was like, it's Aiden writing her after her death is what I was thinking.
Mhm,
But it was just a theory for most of the book, right up until the scene where she sees the little boy the second time playing in the yard, and he sees her, and she runs out to confront him, and he runs into the house. I'm like, oh, she's dead.
mhm.
She's totally dead.
Yeah, that was a confirmation moment uh to my theories as well, but like it, I think you brought up a good point that I would like to talk about. Um, what did you think of the beyond the initial like draw them in part? What did you think about the use of the pen pal overall? I mean, we've heard a little bit about what you thought about it, but the use of the writing device of a pen pal, like,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like it's a literary device in this book where Kayla can express her thoughts without it just narrating her thoughts. Um,
mhm,
I like that aspect. It gives you like a glimpse into her. It's like a second layer of mental thought into
mhm.
her current mindset,
Yeah.
other than the
Um,
narration.
mhm. Absolutely, and it's a technic. It's actually pretty frequently used as a like therapeutic technique to write letters to yourself or to somebody with whom you can have this talk. And I part of what this does that I did like was it was a means of her having her thoughts, like you said, in a different way, but specifically that it was put into a conversation where the conversation was put the thoughts out there and then the response was not necessarily immediate, so you got to kind of chew on what she was putting in there. I i think the only gripe I really have about it is I wish it would have been more featured um in the book, because like you get it very late in the game, you get it very early on, and then the middle is basically just fucking. But um but I still wish it would have I wish it would have been used more because it definitely was one of my favorite parts of the book. It just and it had so much potential that felt left on the table. Get
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
VS Drake says that, well, for one, they missed the fact that the kid ran inside. Yeah, very easy bit to miss unless you were looking for something, you know.
Yeah.
You thought the thematic setting with the quotes, uh, I thought the use was the thematic setting with the quotes from the Divine Comedy. And yes, it was lacking. It could have been used more strongly. Glad somebody else agrees with me.
Yeah.
I, I was just like, give me more. um, um, but at the same time, the Divine Comedy part was another part that I felt was a little underutilized. Like it could have been a very cool thematic piece. Not that it hasn't been done to death, you know, a la, you know, the not the division Angels and Demons. Uh and what was the other one? I know I've got it. Inferno. That's it's literally called Inferno. So there are books out there that cover this stuff, but I think that it might have, if again, that's a bit that feels like a bit left on the table, is they could have used that Divine Comedy bit a bit more to lend some of that tension, maybe that felt a bit lacking for me too throughout the book.
Yeah. No, I think it's easy to break this book into chunks of book style, right? You got the
Yeah.
obviously the smut part that was featured very heavily for a big chunk of the middle part of the book. And then
Yep.
you got the spooky supernatural chunks of ghosts do things and it's scary. And then you've got the death murder mystery, right?
hmm Exactly. And the death murder mystery is the through line of all of those, which is a bit weird for a book that is billed as like a horror thriller uh slash romance. Because again, it plays more mystery. It just has a supernatural element to it. The supernatural element isn't even that scary. The worst part of it is just like, well, you don't want to piss the ghosts off by telling them they're ghosts. Like everything else, even the points at the height of the tension. Actually, why don't we put this in chat? About thoughts on the ghost part or ghost parts. So why don't we can take a bit for each of those chunks that you mentioned. So let's go with the ghost parts bit.
Okay.
But thank you, Miss Drake, for horror.
Whoa, whoa. I mean, she did kind of bring that up at one point, but whoa.
Hey, at least they were self-aware about it. Um, but yeah, for the ghost bit, that was the part that was supposed to be the horror element, and I was a bit disappointed that when things were ramping up, the mediums calmed it down constantly. Like, I get you don't want people to panic, and it was kind of realistic in that way, but horror and thriller isn't always realistic. I mean, sometimes you do want to lean into those pieces that are real and cause real fear. And one of those things is the unknown. Like, it would have been so easy to have one of the mediums be like, well, I haven't encountered this before. And just one line like that might have like helped the tension ramp up. But instead she's just like, no, no, the solution is around us. And then you just enter mystery again, And like the use of like the ghost bit though, I will say the more subtle parts, like the kid running in as she's running out, the fact that she I did like the little bit of the lore that ghosts see other ghosts and don't always recognize each other as ghosts to explain, the Eddie and the other characters she interacts with that aren't Aiden or the maid. So it was and even at the end when she can interact with an actual human being, it's through that list of lore powers of being able to operate electronics. you know So I did like the lore there. I just wish it would have been amped up a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. I personally didn't mind how it played out. When I think hauntings, I think, it's the subtle things that you can kind of explain away.
Mhm.
And I think that's where um, ghost horror is strongest is I can explain this away by these other actions and your mind rationalizing things that happen, like the very natural thing that your mind already does naturally by assuming that what it saw meant this, so I'm going to tell your body and mind that this is what happened, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
It's a very realistic approach to how we as humans react to the unknown.
Yeah.
So
You. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I personally thought it was done well, but I haven't experienced a ton of the horror genre in total. So
Mhm.
it could be better done in other ways that I'm just not familiar with.
Yeah, I think I'm focusing a little too much on the climax of it all. Again, no pun intended. um, but like you do bring up a good point, is that JT did a good job of those little bits that get explained away and the kind of craziness that you feel around it. I think that is the thing that was like the most scary to me is when she starts feeling like she's going crazy. It's just whenever those parts came up, it felt like they didn't get quite enough time to breathe to be to like build that tension. So it was like a lot of potential, but didn't quite hit the way that I wanted it to. And there is a lot of potential there because, like you said, she does JT does a good job of you know making these everyday things and encounters feel like something that you or I could explain away just as easily,
Hmm.
and building them up a little bit. It's just you know may kind of cut it off with a come here bunny. um I felt a little undercutting to me, but you know it's a matter of timing, but there's a lot of like good elements there. It's not without them.
Yeah. Let's jump to VS Drake's question. How did you
Or
feel
am I
about the
right?
use? How did you feel about the use of action scenes?
um,
And action is not referring to action, but it's referring to action.
action. um,
What's that spooky noise again? What the heck is going on?
I think it's a notification thing from, I'm assuming, Discord, because that's where we are hosting our video. Um,
Okay.
Anywho, sorry for that
Sorry.
interruption. It's definitely distracting, but thanks for sticking with us, those who are. Uh, as far as the action scenes go, um, it kind of felt like there might have been a little too much focus on them so early and so often that I don't know, it for a while there it got very easy to lose track of the plot of the rest of the book because it felt like every chapter was a new scene and there was not a ton in between it, at least not enough to really reinvest yourself in the rest of the book, in the through line. It was
Yeah.
just there. It was heavy. It was hard, literally and figuratively. Um, and honestly, not that badly written. I mean, we've read enough romance in these that like we've definitely read much worse, and they seemed mostly realistic aside from the whole like refractory period thing, but I'm putting that up to ghosts. I know they specifically addressed it in the book, but for the most part, uh decently well written. felt almost like a separate book within the book, you know?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned before, it's like it's such a huge chunk in the middle that it just feels like its own little thing.
Yeah. No, for me, I very distinctly remember breathing a sigh of relief when the author said something like, "Oh, and we banged in the morning," because I was like, "Oh, good, we're through we're through the smut." I was like, "Oh, we're done describing every little detail. Okay, we're through it." Personally, it's not really my thing, the
Yeah.
smut aspect. I think it's interesting at times to hear some of the creative ways that authors can describe some very intimate scenes.
Mhm.
Um, and some of the scenes in this particular book were pretty gosh darn heavy and intense.
Mhm.
In ways that I'm like, I would never in a million years be able to say this and not start apologizing immediately afterwards. But that's
Yeah.
that's my own personality. Like, I totally get that. Like, I bet there's, you know, I bet there's a distinct audience out there that's like, yeah, that's hot,
Yeah. And there absolutely is. I mean, if there weren't, then 50 Shades wouldn't have gotten as popular as it did, you know.
Yeah.
Except this is, while not handled ideally, it's handled better by a long shot. Um, but it is a, I don't know, it just felt like reading erotica rather than a book, like a romance book sometimes, especially given how often it was happening for how long it did. I totally get the sigh of relief. When we moved into more plot heavy stuff on the back end, I was just like, okay, go. So it was like, how many of them are ghosts?
Knowing that, disregarding the smut, what did you think of the overall romance between um Kayla and um I'm blanking, the other guy?
Aiden.
Aiden, yeah, thank you.
Um, are you talking about like progressively how I felt about it, or how I felt about it once all the puzzle pieces
Once
were in order?
once everything was assembled, the story's over. What did you think of their romance?
It made a lot more sense by the end. Why she did the things that she did, and there were things that she did that I was just like, person in the movie theater who's like, "Oh, come on, why is she doing that? That's the dumbest thing." And then you're like, "Oh, it's because like on some level her spirit has like actually known this guy for months beforehand, and this isn't actually just happening in a matter of a couple days." Um,
Well, I mean, I took that part to be the factual story, that she
how
remembered that as it happened. It's just the order of the events was all screwed about.
Uh, yeah, that was a little hard to piece out which of the two that it was, but either way, like as we read it though, is my point. Is as we read it, I'm going through being like, dumb, dumb, dumb. Oh, okay, that makes more sense now. You know, and I know that even in real life people get carried away with stuff. I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, this really feels like love bombing and all sorts of like manipulative bullcrap. And then at the end I was like, okay, still a bit weird, but not nearly as weird. Like there's, I'm trying not to over psychoanalyze it because of the trauma involved in all this, but at the same time, I was like, I can get myself, like, I can wrap my mind around it better once everything was in place. And what I think the biggest question it left me with at the end was like, okay, I thought ghosts were people with leftover business. So like, what leftover business did these two have after they spooked the shit out of her husband in his jail, his jail cell interview. Like, did they ascend afterwards or what?
VS Drake says, I'm glad we got closure on Michael at the end. I know they were saying boo, but as a smut book, they should have been doing something else. ROFL. It's like that was my exact thought is like, oh man, if I were them, I'd be fucking in the corner. Right?
Uh,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
um
Instead of an O
for
face, it's a boo face.
yeah. For my opinions on their romance, first and foremost, it's an excellent tragedy, right? Like
Mhm,
absolutely classic form of tragedy where they finally find happiness in each other and it ends in the worst way possible.
mhm,
um I did find it, after we find out that Kayla was abused by Michael, um it confirmed very abusive.
mhm.
um I found it interesting that she was comfortable and excited to enter into a sexual relationship that was focused on domination.
I mean, it's more common than you might think in real life. Honestly, I found that part to be fairly realistic where, um, people will often play out power dynamics in a realm that is meant to be safe. So, in the bedroom, I think the presumption is if you trust somebody enough to let them in there, assuming that it is consensual as it should be, you're in a safe space and you can play out power dynamics in a way that can make you feel more safe within those dynamics and find out how you respond to them and in a very particular way, and in a weird way it gives you a sense of power and freedom, like she even says in that book, which actually was one of the bits that I thought was surprisingly well done, is this idea of like somebody who is abused feeling safe in a dynamic that a lot of people on its surface would say shares similarities when it's very different, because it's a realization of where the line is between what's acceptable and what's not, and knowing that is empowering in and of itself, and being able to take it back and be like, okay, I wasn't wrong to be okay with these aspects of this. What was wrong was what this person ultimately did with that, and that's that difference between Michael and Aiden.
Yeah. So I guess it's like giving power to the to yourself in the domination with knowing that you have the power to stop it at any time.
Exactly. And that only really happens with a partner who you trust to actually, stop, to respect that boundary. And it yeah, so it's not out of nowhere. Like, I honestly thought that was pretty well handled overall.
Beatrix with the BDSM enlightenment here on the 800s. Oh man. All right.
You read enough of this stuff and you gotta do a little deep diving just for context, you know?
So how do you think the climax of the story, the big reveal, Kayla's a ghost, everybody's dead, Michael's the murderer, how do you think that climax played out as the story's climax?
Right, context. Sorry. Um, when I say you, I'm talking you, the viewer. Like, you don't just count on me to tell you stuff. Uh, I, we are very. What's the term that she used when Eddie was around? We're just very open here. We're not kink shaming anybody over here on DM's table. One of the 800s. Anywho, how it was handled, that was the bit where I was like, aha, the M. Night Shyamalan reveal. I thought it was done reasonably well. I like that they didn't just fully 180. Like it wasn't a light bulb immediate turn. It was the bits and flashes of memory, and that she comes to it in the way that the medium said that she needed to as a ghost, is slowly and gradually, and to the point where eventually everything just kind of clicks into place. And that ramp up felt really good, which maybe kind of retroactively led to some of my disappointment with the lack of build up in other areas, because that was so well handled. I'm like, God damn it, you could have done this the rest of the book, you know.
No,
But I liked it.
I totally agree. The whole laying out, like, felt like a detective, like, laying down pictures in a
Hmm.
crime scene case, like, "Look at this scene, look at that scene. Oh, these are connected." Like, it felt so surreal, like I was literally watching a movie as it was laying out, and it's like somebody putting the puzzle together for the final time. It was, in my opinion, it was fantastically done. Um, oh, and that moment where the ghost writes revenge on the paper, and it's just
Hmm.
like I assume it was pretty similar for a lot of people, but like for me that was the moment where I was like, it's Aiden. Michael killed them. Holy shit. Like
That was definitely the part where I was just like, okay, confirmed Michael killed them, but I had, like I said way earlier, assumed that the ghost was Aiden, but that was definitely like nail in the proverbial coffin of that theory. It's just like it was encased. It was, it was a very neat wrap up to all of these elements that I think the only thing bad about it is that there could have been, I think, more. We had to allow climax, by the way, on chat. That's
Yeah.
um, but like it was done so well that I can't help but wonder, retroactively, if there could have been just that little hint more squeeze, wrung out of it, because we didn't spend like a third of the book basically, dodging dicks. Um, but like you get what I mean though, like where it was just like, wow, that was really good. This whole book would have been just amazing if it would have had a little more balance leading up to this point. And because it was done so well, obviously this author has some chops that they can do that sort of thing. So, don't sell yourself short, JT. You can be horny and a good writer.
No, I thought the whole mixing up reality of the past with the ghost life thing was really, really an interesting take on it, because it's like,
Mhm.
how do you ensure that you can pull one over, so to speak, on your readers? It's like, oh, just fucking lie to them. I really
That was a
liked
bit
that
more.
part. Like, I thought that
I
was
wasn't
great.
feel about that part, quite honestly, considering how you've had mixed feelings about it before. But to your point, I think it's about how it's used, right?
Yeah.
Now, so VS Drake says, in their opinion, it was a great climax. It was really slow build and then was crazy intense at the end. It did all the right things a climax should do, in my opinion, and in general, having it so close to the end of the book was wild to me. I slightly disagree with does all the right things to build to a climax as far as like the whole book goes, but that one particular scene, absolutely. Like every little bit added and added and added until if you had any shred of doubt before as a reader, it was gone at the same moment that it was gone for her. And that is masterful.
Keep having to allow Via Drake's climax comments. Quit being so dirty. um, no, for me, how I didn't block you. That's weird.
I, I wanted to see if it would do the same thing to a mod. Uh,
No, for me, what I found interesting um about the climax was the moment where the medium is like, "Oh, I'm running late to my other appointments." And then Kayla goes, "The letters." And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stay instead of leave." Like, story-wise, okay. Literary-wise, holy shit, is that like, don't you fucking leave, keep reading this book. Like, it was a really good way to be like, don't go anywhere. We're about to crack this shit wide open.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I definitely was more invested in the story after this moment. So the fact that it does tease like, okay, this isn't the end of it all makes it a little worthwhile to stick around so it doesn't feel like, you're waiting for that last little ember to go out before you go to bed for the night. It's like, okay, there's something to chew on after this, right?
Yeah. All right, you got any remaining topics to discuss, or shall we move into
Oh, I was
final
gonna say, who was your
thoughts?
favorite ghost?
My favorite ghost was Grandpa Eddie.
Eddie, yeah.
Just because he
Uh,
was like so fucking clueless.
but everything was groovy, man. No, honestly, yeah, I'm glad that Grandpa Eddie was in there. I thought he added like a nice bit of levity to this that would have maybe felt like a little too, for lack of a better term in my head right now, stodgy. Otherwise, it, it, I think it was nice to have a character that could break that when the main character gets a little too main charactery, it can be a little hard to break a character out of that way in a satisfying way on their own. And sometimes you need another character to come in and remind them, like, oh, other people exist. And that's especially difficult with grief, right? Because it's justified, like when you're going through that kind of loss that comes with death, it is to a certain degree, yeah, your pain is the all encompassing thing that everything revolves around for a little while. And that's okay for a little while, but you know, when you're interacting with people, you see her get snippy all the time at other people, and then Eddie comes in and he's just like this totally affable dude who, yeah, doesn't do the job as well as she wanted, but he was like genuinely very nice to her despite her being a bit of a dick. um,
Yeah.
and wanted nothing out of it, and it was kind of nice just to have him there and just break that up a little bit so that the character can kind of shake some stuff off and move with the rest of the book.
Yeah.
So, like, for a supporting character to do that, also really well written.
And it was a good clue as to what was going on there too with the story. Like, oh, Eddie doesn't he's not around anymore. Although I will say his grandson was a bit of a like Why wouldn't you just come out and say Eddie's not with us anymore instead of stringing her along? Like, you playing a joke on me right now? Like, she obviously doesn't know that he's dead.
I wouldn't say it's obvious from our perspective, but think about taking that phone call. You have a grandfather who's been dead for 30 years. Who the fuck is going to know about that? And why would they bring it up on a supposed, like, random call from a number you don't get? I understand the skepticism. So, justice for Eddie's grandson, whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. It was only said like one time, so.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like that he didn't just come out and say it earlier, for sure, before he got totally pissed off, but, like, it would have been very simple to be like, if you didn't know, he's dead, and if you do know, then fuck you, and that's all you have to do about it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not too it was, I don't think it was that big of a deal that he handled it the way that he did. I thought that was a pretty normal response for somebody who just heard about their dead grandpa from like 20 years prior, just out of nowhere, like slap to
Yeah.
the face, ha.
Final thoughts. Final thoughts. Let's do it.
Final thoughts.
And I'm talking about final thoughts, not, like doing it. But I said let's do it. Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about
I
final thoughts.
know.
The sex puns will continue.
So morale improves. Um, uh, so my final thoughts. There's some very good, like very well done elements in this book. Um, I think it is not as cohesive or as punchy as I guess I wanted it to be. Like, it felt like there is a lot still left on the table that didn't come to fruition that I thought there was so much potential for, which again could be a little bit, just, disclaimer, could have been my expectations of the book going in, hoping for something a little more thrill horror based. And, while I expected the horny, I wasn't expecting that much all clumped together. So a little disconnected, but the through line has a good payoff at the end that I think is worth reading, as long as you don't go into this thinking that it's actual horror. It's a mystery thriller romance. I would take the horror element out of it entirely, because the most horrific part of it is at the very end, that she was murdered and they get revenge anyway. So, um, maybe it's a matter of who did the telling, but, something I would recommend if people like romance, and especially very heavy romance. I might recommend this, but this wouldn't be on the top of my recommend list to most people. I might recommend as a example for writing certain things for sure, and like the things that they and I might use it as an example of uh, proper use of a literary device like a pen pal. Both you know the ways that it was used properly and the where it could have been used more parts, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think this was a decent book for the right people. If you're really big into that romantasy and you want something that isn't vampires, fairies, or dragons, ghosts. Let's put them on the list. you know,
Although, did the ghosts ever bang is the question.
I believe they did.
Yeah, for me, this book had a lot of cool literary devices in it. It had the pen pals, the moment I was talking about where the medium was about to leave, but then changed her mind as a way to say, "Hey, this is about to be good." Um, the clever use of lying to the reader in order to pull off a blindfold at the end. Um, all those things I think were really well done. Definite pacing issues, and it did feel a little disjointed to go from the horror to the sex to the horror. Um, this isn't a book that I would read again, but I definitely really enjoyed it the first time, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
would recommend it. Yeah, it
uh,
was entertaining.
it makes sense in the same way that like I used this already, but like the old M Night Shyamalans where there's some of them that yeah the reveal is worth watching the first time, but once the novelty of it's gone, then you know you kind of lose what little good it had going for it. you know,
Yeah.
uh, I'm a little more in line with Via Strake of this book was a flash in the pan, fun to read, but not something I would highly recommend. If I met the right person, I would, but like for most people, probably not. I think the action sequences were good, but there was not enough non-sex scenes highlight. Um, it was a bullet train story moving fast to get to the end. I don't know. I was not upset about the book, but it was not reaching the top of the list and not mad at it. Just saying, yeah, I agree. Just it needed more substance from the actual book in those sex scenes so it wasn't disjointed. And I think this, sorry, hiccups, could have been a book absolutely worth recommending because it's not, it's like if I met the right person, sure, but ultimately it kind of lands in the like fun read, but meh
Yeah.
category for me.
No, I get it.
Well,
I
you
say it
did
was
warn us
a
via strike.
porn with a plot.
Yep, pretty much.
The lady
Uh,
answered the door to the pizza delivery man, asked him how his night was, and then banged his brains out.
then was murdered.
And then murdered him. Yeah. All
Yes, we
right.
did something like that. So why don't we go ahead and wrap up then?
Yeah. Next on the docket, we have NPCs by Drew Hayes for November 8th, coming up quickly, just a couple of weeks here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 2 weeks? 2 weeks? I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah, two
I think
weeks.
it's 2 weeks.
And then after that, on December 6th, Red Shirts by John Scalzi. Scalzi, I think this is our third Scalzi book? Question mark.
Maybe a third overall. I know it's our second this year.
Yeah, second this year, definitely.
Yeah, Kaiju Preservation Society. Shout out.
Yeah.
All
So
right, and
excited to see more Scalzi and read this one. This will be new for me. So
all right, and what has is our book coming up after that? That is going to be our. We'll have this up shortly after the stream, but our vote will be for our fond remembrances of 2025, our New Year's, remembering our favorite books from the past year that you didn't read with us. So, last second chance to throw something in. Otherwise, we'll choose and then you can vote on what we choose for you to vote on. So, got recommendations, throw them at us. Uh, and then coming up after that, we usually do. Well, I think this year February is going to be Black History Month, uh, considering the recency of the romance that we've done. Um, so we're gonna do another Black History Month, one of those, at least while it's still around. Um, And if you have any other ideas that you have for themes, please also feel free to throw that our way. And Adam, why don't you tell them where they can do that?
Sure. They can do that on our socials, I guess, or YouTube. We are at the DM's table on Facebook and at DM's table on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. We are at the DM's table on YouTube. The link is below your video here on Twitch. Also on there, you can find our Patreon link. We are the DM's Table on Patreon. You can also get to all of these links at dmstable.com. Also, if you heard some cool music before you saw our pretty faces on the show, that was Fearless First by Incompetech. You should check out other options and things they have available for your audio needs at incompetech.filmmusic.io. Side note, I was watching some reels about some sciency things
Hmm.
the other day, and I heard one of Incompetech's scores as the background for that sci-fi video, and I was like, I know where they got that because I've used that before with stuff we've done.
See, we're not the only ones. You should use them too. Clearly, they've
Yes.
got some reach.
Yeah, there's tons of different applications for their music. If you need background music or action scene music or just any sort of music effect, they're a good place to start. Um, yeah. Anyway, done shouting that out.
All right, so we've skipped this a lot, but very quick side piece.
Yeah,
Side
side
piece. Side
pieces.
piece?
For me, Dungeon Crawler Carl was my big side piece this time and last time. Started it last time, finished it this time. All
Yeah.
7 books are done. High five. Thank you, Alex, for the recommendation for that series. It was
Hmm.
fantastic so far. Or maybe it's done. I don't know. We'll see.
I know.
Wink, wink.
I know whether or not, but I've been asked not to reveal even that. Um, uh, for me, side pieces, I reread the entire series of Dungeon Crawler Carl from first to seventh book. One, to, you know, chat with Adam along the way, and two, it
Dirty,
is one
dirty
of
feet.
those it is one of those books that you can absolutely reread the entire series and get all kinds of new stuff out of it while still enjoying the things that you loved the first time through. Uh, which can't really say, it's hard enough to say that about whole books these days, let alone whole series. So uh, there's that one, and I also read. I don't have my phone on me. Um, what was it? I'm blanking. I am having a senior moment, even though I'm only 35. Uh, I read a book that was recommended to me by a friend of mine, and I will try to bring it up next time, or maybe I'll put it up uh, in chat or something. But I am still working my way through that one. I just paused because Adam started Dungeon Crawler Carl, and tried to get it started up again, and then I remembered I had to read this book. So
Get
it
that
keeps getting
pesky book
posted.
club book out of the way.
so so yeah, I was like mostly done with it, but and then I was like, oh crap, I need 8.5 hours to assign to this. So uh, when I remember the title, I'll get it to you guys. But there are other books other than Dungeon Crawler Carl that I listen to outside of this. I swear.
Sure, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more going forward now that I've read and reread it. Maybe I'll just do the webtoon and make it a three-peat. Yeah.
I don't know if
Also,
I've mentioned
oh, go ahead.
on this show before, but I did read Isles of the Emberdark at some point by Sanderson. And
I
that
think
was that was like a Cosmere wet dream. So like it was really good.
yeah, that's on my to-do list for sure. I think you mentioned it to me, but I think it might have been when you were reading it when we did one of the accidental skips of side pieces, which is why it's an important segment to do, even if it's thrown at the end. yeah, so Alan agrees. Good AF. So read Isles of the Ember Dark along with me. All right, and with that, I think that mostly wraps things up. So thank you everybody for joining us. This was an interesting chat that, you know, it surprisingly began and ended horny thanks to those dirty, dirty feet. Um,
Glad to
but
finish with you guys. Thanks for
yeah.
coming.
Yeah, see you next book. I'm not.